Let's stick at the wide receiver position for your third question of the week.
Yeah, which wide receivers should you be buying before the fantasy trade deadline, which I think in a lot of leagues, the default is next week in week 12. So you got to start thinking about that. Last week on the show, we ended the 6 questions. We ended it with the running backs that I think people should go and trade for. So if you didn't see that, go back, check out that segment, because all those guys still stand true as players that I'm trying to go out and trade for. I want to talk about 4 receivers right now that I think you should be trying to make an effort to get on your roster here. And the 4 are Jameson Williams, who is actually going to be on the other side of the field against A.J. Brown this week, Zay Flowers, Ricky Pearsall, and then Justin Jefferson, who we talked about on Monday. And I just want to put it down one more time. The more I look at it, Justin Jefferson, maybe even Jordan Addison, but give me a second. We'll get there. Let's go through these guys. Okay. So for Jameson Williams, we're seeing him heat up a little bit recently, right? At least 65 yards and a touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. I know you did some work on Dan Campbell taking over the play calling last week and what that meant for JMO. I think that factors in here for sure. So does the schedule, to keep coming back to schedule stuff. It's not just opponents like, the Giants in week 12, the Cowboys in week 14, the Steelers in week 16. The Lions have one of the 5 easiest fantasy schedules the rest of the way for receivers based on my strength of schedule work. And I mentioned it before, the final 6 games that they have, they're going to get back to their bread and butter. They're going to be indoors for all 6 of those games. That tends to be when this passing attack really hits its stride and goes off. So I think it's an offense as a whole that you want to buy into right now. We also have Sam Laporta dealing with a back injury. He's missed practice the first 2 days of this week. Not sure if he's going to play this week. We're going to have to keep an eye on that one. But we talked before the season about all the different hands in this offense that are calling for the ball. Well, if you take away a guy like Laporta, that could certainly mean another target or 2 going to Jameson Williams. So I think that's another reason to consider him here. I would just go out and I would try to buy him because we know the big playability. We've seen him start to come on recently. I'm really excited about him. Zay Flowers, in the 7 games that Lamar has suited up, Flowers has gone for at least 70 yards in 4 of them. I know he's still not finding the end zone at the pace that we would like to see, and I don't want to rely on like he's due, but touchdowns are going to come. He is not going to have a touchdown in week 1 and never find the end zone again for the rest of the season. Knock on wood somewhere, because watch now, he'll go and do that. But we have Rashad Bateman, who's banged up. He's dealing with an ankle issue. He's not practicing this week. The Ravens have a pretty good schedule the rest of the way, like no particularly tough matchups. And just Flowers is like too involved to not end up being productive at some point. And I think I would argue he has been productive. And if you throw another touchdown or 2 in there, people would be a lot more excited about his fantasy outlook right now. I don't know if it's going to happen this week. So if you're looking to trade for him, maybe you wait until next week, because this week there could be some weather issues in that game with the Browns. I'm not sure if it's going to be like precipitation stuff like snow or rain. I think it might be more a wind issue there. But again, he's the kind of player that could get something in the short range and use his yak ability in order to turn it into a big play, right? He's 4th right now in yards after the catch among receivers this year. So I think big days are going to come for Flowers. He just needs to find the end zone once in a while. And that one is kind of like, I'm hoping that it happens. I don't know that I have anything like super predictive, but when you're getting the kind of volume that he's getting, touchdowns tend to come eventually. Ricky Pearsall, so he's missed 6 games. He suffered that PCL sprain. Back at practice this week, though. Not 100% sure that he's going to suit up for this one. He might. If not, at least he's getting very close here. And you look at him, like, don't forget what he did in the first month of the season. Like everybody out there, he is a name that I've seen even dropped in some leagues. I picked him up in one league. I think you got to go out and get him. If other people have him and they're not excited about him coming back here, they're worried about now a bunch of people are getting healthy for the 49ers. There's a lot of pass catchers there. Juwan Jennings is available. George Kittle's back. I don't think you need to worry about that. And I know that some of Pearsall's stats came when those guys were hurt early in the season, but 4 for 108, 4 for 56, 8 for 117. Those were the opening 3 weeks. You go back to last year. How did he finish the season? 8 for 141 in a touchdown, 6 for 69 in a touchdown. I think that's more than enough signal when you're talking about a former first round pick here, a guy who was definitely flashed. I think he's somebody that you can get for wide receiver 3 flex kind of value, but who has wide receiver 2 potential in this offense, especially if we get Brock Purdy back at a level that we hope that he's 100% healthy and producing like he can, because I think that'll just make this offense that much better as well. And then the Jefferson one, and like I said, it's Jefferson. It's also kind of Addison. I talked about this on Monday, but there's just no way when you look at this schedule to me that they get the Bears this week, which is a very good matchup, the Commanders in week 14, the Cowboys in week 15, the Giants in week 16, the Lions in week 17. No one has an easier fantasy schedule when it comes to receivers than the Vikings receivers do. And I just have a hard time believing that a guy like Justin Jefferson isn't going to come through. And even a guy like Jordan Addison, who had 11 targets last week, and I know it didn't turn into a ton of production, but he is a very talented player. These guys are going to have some big performances in those easier matchups. So Jefferson, you would be hoping for top 10 kind of results, obviously. Addison's a guy that's more of like that high-end wide receiver 3, but with some big-time upside if he can connect on some of those catches. He's got that big playability as well. I think he could be a wide receiver 2 in some of those matchups. So I think those are 4 guys that I am going out and trying to get in most leagues. Let me know what you think, though, Harmon.
God, I hope you're right about the Justin Jefferson thing, man. I don't even actually have any Justin Jefferson teams this year because I had CeeDee Lamb ranked higher and I ended up with him more often than not, or went somewhere else. I actually don't think I have any Justin Jefferson teams, so I am not like personally invested in this, but it really could be just a matchup based thing here going forward. The thing is, though, McCarthy has played at a level where I don't even know if him going against a team that's bad on defense really moves the needle all that much for me. Like, he just, as an individual, has to play better, but we're still 4 starts into this guy's career. There's every chance in the world that he just, I'm not going to say turns it on to the level where he's the next Patrick Mahomes. Not that anybody's ever implied that, but, but he can at least be a damn functional starting quarterback in the league. Like, can we get this guy to functional starting quarterback in the league and then progress throughout the course of the year? I think that's possible. I'm a little more skeptical of it than you are, but I am definitely hoping you are right. Your other 3 names, though, I really, really like. Quickly on Zay Flowers, he was again in the article that I mentioned today. So this stat I thought was funny. Weeks 1 to 5, Zay Flowers had a 28.8% share of the Ravens' targets and 32.2% share of the air yards. Weeks 6 to 10, 28.6% of the targets, 33.1% of the air yards. So, like, truly nothing has changed about his role or anything like that. As you mentioned, he just hasn't hit touchdowns and hasn't hit big plays like we saw him do in the first 2 weeks of the season, which one of those was a matchup with the Browns. So there is at least that. The league that you picked Pearsall up in, was that our office league that we're both in together?
I don't know who dropped him, so I didn't want to say it, but
it was me.
It is the Yahoo office league.
No, it was me. It was me, and let me explain myself here really quickly, because
I did not know that. I wasn't protecting you. I was protecting some random in that league that I didn't know who actually dropped them. That's hilarious.
It was me, and it had to be done because this team has just been it's easily my most annoying fantasy team. Okay, it's been a lot of injuries. Amarian Hampton is hurt. Joe Burrow, which I never draft Joe Burrow, but I drafted him just because he was highest on my board. He got hurt. I'm mysteriously CeeDee Lamb was my first round pick. Hurt. It's just one of those teams where I'm just constantly covering holes. My IR spots are obviously filled. And this is the week where I have Joe Flacco, Chase Brown. Chase Brown was an early pick on mine too. That did not start the season well. So I've been trying to claw my way back in this league. And because I have both Cowboys receivers, Chase Brown and Joe Flacco, I had a bunch of dudes on bye last week, and I had to fill a starting spot. And I had to look at Pearsall and say, look, you're my guy. I got you in other leagues, but you got to go. And the dude that I picked up was actually Juwan Jennings, because he was available on waivers for whatever reason. Picked him up, started him last week, got a touchdown out of it because we had to survive in advance. So that's just a lesson for all you people out there. And I'm bad at this, so I'm giving you advice that I'm bad at. Sometimes you got to be cold-hearted. You got to take the emotions out of it, and you just got to do what needs to be done. So we'll see if I can climb. I'm 4-6. I'm trying to climb back into this thing and make the damn playoffs. We'll see if I can do it.
You've won 3 in a row. I'm looking at it right now. You've won 3 games in a row, right? Yeah, well done.
I have, dude. I have had to.
You were right on the edge of the playoffs.
I have had to scratch I have had to scratch and freaking claw in this league. It's easily, again, the most annoying one. Again, it's an intercompany league. It's like with our bosses. I'm really not trying to embarrass myself in front of the people who signed the paychecks. So I'm trying to make it happen in this league. We'll see if we can get it done. So that is why I dropped Ricky Pearsall. It was funny. As you mentioned, you picked him. I was like, I bet Boone picked him up when I dropped him. I just knew that was going to happen to me. I thought maybe I could sneak him back on. No chance. Of course, I dropped
spent a
him
little too much fab even to get him on my team. I think my bid was way bigger than anyone else's bid because I was like, oh man, Ricky Pearsall's available? Absolutely. And now maybe we're going in opposite directions because I started hot in that league. I'm still doing all right. But I got some injuries that I'm dealing with now. BTJ's hurt. I got some other guys. Trey Benson's been hurt for a while. So now I'm trying to keep it going here. Hopefully you don't pass me at some point now that your team's getting healthy and getting hot.
No, we'll see what happens. I thought I was holding Joe Burrow in a ceremonial IR spot, but it sounds like he could actually be back, which is nice to see. Last guy here that you mentioned, Jameson Williams. And yeah, look, Ricky Pearsall is going to be awesome. I got Ricky Pearsall in other leagues, and I'm with you. I'm definitely buying him, and he's somebody I'm obviously really excited to see back. But Jameson Williams, you mentioned the change to Dan Campbell as the play caller. I just think that is a materially different situation now for him. When we talked in the offseason, Boone, about the Lions offense and then maybe taking a step back without Ben Johnson, we agreed that one of the players who was probably most sensitive to that change was Jameson Williams, because I think he is a good receiver, but he's kind of a unique receiver in terms of how you want to deploy him. I think it is so tempting to look at his speed and say, oh yeah, that guy's our deep threat. We got to let him run deep, all that stuff. I also didn't even like the comments that John Morton threw out and Jameson Williams threw out in the offseason about, oh yeah, I'm a little more free in this system. I'm like, I don't know if I want a lot of freedom for Jameson Williams. I want him running crossers and in breakers, what he was doing with Ben Johnson, which it took Ben Johnson a minute to figure out that should be the usage for Jameson Williams. And I think we were proven completely correct about that because he was so quiet to start the year under Morton, but then I think the usage just immediately changed with Dan Campbell, getting him on these crossers, 9.8 yards after catch per reception last week. And you mentioned some of those matchups. I think Jameson Williams could go from one of those guys, Boone, who crushed you in the first half of the year to end up being somebody who actually finishes really strong here.
Yeah, and maybe we could get Dan Campbell to walk across the field and take over play calling for the Eagles this week. That would be nice. Could we have like a full-time play caller on offense where he just goes back and forth and actually gets some nice looks for A.J. Brown too? That would be a nice way for all this to work out.
Dan Campbell's the man. He's when people are like, oh, Nick Sirianni, he's a culture guy. Dan Campbell's a culture guy who also is basically Sean McVay calling plays over there. So that's a pretty cool head coach to have if you are a Detroit Lions fan.